Hello everyone and welcome back to ajclubsport. So today I'm going to share a part of my personal history, but also what I believe can be very interesting in matters of understanding how our actual real race car is built. In the past, between let's say around 2010 and 2013 end of year, I built and owned a performance company building track day cars and race cars in Milan, Italy. This company was then sold to Honda Motors Italy in the midst of personal issues with the divorce, but this is not the point. The point is that we have done things that were quite ahead of times in that place, that was recognized by press and by, let's say, most users as the most high-tech and high-quality workshop in Italy. So this is why also the Japanese guys at Honda Motors bought it when I sold it. The point is that the culmination of our work came through a Honda S2000 that we built in order to go and compete in the VLN series, but also we made it, let's say, from a homologation standpoint, compatible with the Rally GT. So it would have been possible to race this car also in rallies in the GT series. So I think this can be very interesting for you guys because nowadays and for some years now, most of race cars have been coming out in, let's say, assembly boxes or already assembled by the manufacturers, because before this was a huge job and a huge business also. And of course, the manufacturers understood, and therefore they are now making these cars like either Lego Technics or already done. Instead, it's very different when you have to use your brain, you have to take the technical rules and regulations out and study how you want to build the car and then make it happen, even fabricated most of the parts. So in this case, we went balls out on this one. At the time, we were also distributors for Italy of Spoon Sports from Japan and many other brands, including Endless and many other. And we took a very, very cheap, half-wrecked Honda S2000 with that had a let's say, a minor accident, but it had also broken the engine. He revved out and he broke the engine. So we bought this car very cheap, and through a lot of study and hard work, we built it into a real race car that we then tested at the track, and that was faster than the official S2000 rally cars of the time. So it was very, very amusing. This also had press coverage, and it was one of the best S2000s, I was told, out there, to the point that when, out of necessity, the car was just completed and tested, we were closing the company, and therefore I had to sell this car. And this car went all the way to Hong Kong to a private collection. So that tells you the quality of this vehicle. So I put together a big collection of pictures, and it took me ages to put them in order. And maybe they may be something not in order still, but I've already dedicated half of a day of preparing this. So I would like to look at them together with you, look at this piece of history, because I can explain you part by part how a car is built. Okay, let's go for it. Now, I'm looking through my monitor. So this was the donor car. So here is where we started from. The car, I think I paid something like less than 5,000 euros for. It was, I think, 4,500. And the car had just this minor damage in the side. but actually the chassis was straight. The side beam needed changing, but the chassis was straight. The engine was destroyed, but all the parts were there. Actually, destroyed is a big word. He had broken all the valve train, probably over-revving it in a downshift. So this is what arrived, and we had already done all the homework because this project was a long time coming, so we knew exactly what to do with it. And with a lot of patience, the first thing to do, once we had the regulations, the plans and the papers, was to take the car and take it apart. So you may think that taking a car apart to make something out of it may be easy, but actually this is a very meticulous process. And all these pictures that you're seeing are also pictures that we took because we needed them to see what was the where. So there are many different ways of cataloging parts, and we had our own, of course. I have my own methods. And basically the electrical system, we label each termination of the electrical system, and then we will see it in the images. You set it down on a net and you zip tie it down to the net, let's say more or less in the same position, left to right and front and rear of what you find in the car. And then piece by piece you take everything out and you separate the trim, keeping the interior trim with the exterior trim separate, and also all the nuts and bolts. When you place away all the nuts and bolts, in certain parts of the car, you just group them by size because you can't go wrong. And in other parts, you group them specifically with the parts they go with. So this is also, you can imagine, look at this guy had put a subwoofer in the rear of the car. I mean, things in an S2000. What subwoofer do you need? All these cables going everywhere, all dirty. I don't know how this guy was using this car. If you look at the size, even of the batteries at the time, like a truck battery. Look there is a clutch plate sitting around, but we found it in the car. It wasn't from us, just like that. And it was in a very, very rough condition. So step by step, once you pull everything down, you need to start understanding, since you've done your homework before, where you want things to go. And at that stage, you can start writing also on the chassis. So big practice back in the day is also to, but still today you see the difference, is also to take away all the structural sealant there is in the car and start deciding where you want to seam weld the chassis. Chassis that must be supported on the correct points, because otherwise you will seam weld the chassis that will be crooked. So this is very important. And in case of this specific chassis, I personally seam weld it all. And there are many ways of doing this, but there is a good way and a bad way. If you want to seam weld the chassis in the right way, you're going to prepare the location of the welds, and you are going to do the welding. Then you're going to hammer-proof each weld, and then in order to reduce the weight and increase resistance in time, you will have to go and clean each weld in order to get all the excess material out of it. And believe me, it is a huge job. I haven't counted them because it was impossible, but I think that at least 20,000 weld points are additional on this car. And this is me using the welding helmet. And this is exactly how we laid out the cables. So you got each electronic device, each termination that is labeled and also put together. Obviously, everything that is in yellow when you're building a race car, you won't need anymore because that is all safety related. So that's related to airbags, that's related to seatbelt retainers and all of that. And then a lot of fabrication work on the chassis, not only to make it true and clean again, like it came out of Honda, but obviously to make it adapted to the scope of racing. That has to be within the regulations. That is the big complication of this. And yeah, this is hallucinating at 11 o'clock in the evening after a long day of work. And also making sure that you take pictures of what you do step by step, because even here you need to build a technical book of the car that is going to be the Bible that you will use when you go to race and show the homologation technicians, and show them, especially the first race you go to for the first homologation, for all the verifications. These are some welds before cleaning, as you can see. Good penetration there. Yeah, we were using a very, very expensive welding machine from Prima Industries, and this is all a cleaned up part, all welded. And yeah, I can see this is the housing of the fuel tank, stock fuel tank. And my oh my, we're going to see this. It's been such a headache. This is the front suspension reinforcements. In general, Honda S2000s in the early versions had also very, very weak hookup points for the front upper suspension arm. So they sell, and they used to sell, for sure you can still find them, some plates to weld on, but also it is very interesting to make additional seam welding and reinforcements in that part of the body, because it's subject to a lot of flex, and we have done a lot of that. But all in all, the body is a very good body. Point is that trying not to add too much weight, the more rigid, the stiffer you manage to make the body, the better the car will perform, because the car will be very, very stiff, and this will enable you to run, let's say, softer suspension settings, because you will have less torsion from the body in relation to what you'll be using if it were not. Look at that. This is a front subframe in terrible condition, engine getting ready to come out. So even here, and maybe you can say this is redundant, but each bolt, each eccentrics, everything, since we also did a lot of different cars, just take a picture and put it away in the right place. So if you have any doubts in the future, okay, these are the hookup points in the front I was talking about. Huge job in cleaning this area up, and then ready for the seam welding. This is the rear subframe coming out. A lot of work. This was Francesco. A lot of work in getting all this structural sealant and anti-vibration sealant off the chassis, because it accounts for a lot of weight. Plus, in certain points, it also uncovers the bodywork itself, where you need to access the sheet metal to make modifications and seam welding. And by the way, as you can see, this car must have had a problem with their HVAC air conditioning system, in particular with the evaporator, because there was a spill on the front dividing wall, and we took also a lot of work to clean that up. It was, what a state this car was in. Now I think of it and I see it again, I've been seeing these pictures all day. What a state. So much work, but also so much vision and so much fun, because you can say that certain people of us just like suffering, but in reality it's a vision, it's a dream, and it's the wish to make something perfect, even better than many others, and to make it work to the maximum. This for me is imperative, whatever things I do. And now you can see with your own eyes how long back I go, and how deep I went in designing and building race cars here. making sense of all the cables. Obviously, the car we will see later would have only regained part of the stock electrical system, because we would have changed the whole engine wire harnessing, and we would add more electrical parts because we want to use telemetry and all of that at the track, especially in the 6 and 24-hour races. So this car was made to be very, very reliable and robust and to withstand 24-hour races. In fact, also the engine that is here getting packed up to go to the engine tuner, guy that was tuning only Honda engines here in Italy for the Hosella hill climb race cars. And the engine was in the end tuned to the likes of 287 horsepower for real. So we could have gone all the way up to 310, 315 horsepower, but we kept it a bit lower because of the 24-hour race. But this was a real horsepower and not gimmicks in a world where maybe the stock engine was making 215 horsepower, let's say. So it was a very, very big increase. And you can see all the suspension arms, components, they're all in a terrible state. So once you manage to get everything out of the car and make sense of it, catalog it all, and you need to clean everything, and then also understand what you're going to do. So obviously what you're going to scrap is not a problem, apart from having to retrieve the new parts. But what you're going to use again, you have to send out to be sand blown, to be cleaned, and after that you're going to have to work on it to make it perfect. And we're going to come up to this. And you see now how the strut towers look beautiful, because we've done some not only welding but also reinforcing also on the rear strut towers. And here we start seeing the cut for the new fuel cell in the rear. What a pain, what a big job that, you will see. And now we're starting to get ourselves ready for all the seam welding. Yeah, I'm sorry, here's a mix of pictures, time mix, but these pictures are 15 years old, so it was not easy, and there's so many. You see, I wrote down with a crayon Uniposca on the body itself, just to remember what to weld and why, because maybe you take away some series spot welds, but you want to do handmade spot welds to make it stronger, and this is also the case. This was closing the stock fueling. This was trying out how to put the actual new fuel cell. A very complicated matter, because this is only just a tryout of its position that does not have to touch the mechanical parts below, and also has to stay inside as much as possible. Here we already sent the car out after welding it to get the roll cage installed, and we also designed in my friends in the pictures here, one of them is the car engineer and roll bar engineer, designed in some further reinforcements, as you can see just here, that went all the way to the front struts up to the front suspension points. And this gave the car a lot of rigidity. And you see what a work of art, of beauty these tubes are, and go and connect them with more tubes sim welded one to the other, exceeding largely the specifications from FIA while keeping the weight as low as possible, because also there it's always a trade-off between safety, rigidity, and weight. Weight is your enemy, so you got to do everything you can in order to keep the weight down. And here we have to try and understand the packaging of the car. So trying to understand what will fit where and how the driver and co-driver for the rallies, this is what I was talking to you about, the second option of use for this car, would have been. So this is my former co-driver, and we were working together a lot at the time. Also, he was employed by AJ Performance. He is now also national rally champion. He went on doing rallies whilst I had to go on working. And this is the chassis in preparation and in painting finally. So all the welding has been done, the roll cage has been done, all the packaging is ready, so our position for the seats, everything has been done perfectly, and now we get it all nice and clean. So we decided to go full white for this one, and I love it very much because although it's harder to live with, it helps you spot any problem, any cracks, any problem of whatever, you just find it. So now you start seeing the fuel cell itself. So look how close it is to the roll bars. This is a big shipping of parts from Spoon Sports. And here's a big jump of pictures. This is towards the end of the assembly. But yeah, here are, I was saying sandblasting. From sandblasting, you get back the subframes and the arms. So therefore, I put them on my bench and I started reinforcing these subframes. They are quite good, but can do with reinforcement. So now I'll show you how I did this. And you see, there you go. So additional tubes. You see additional seam welding all around, reinforcement plates, and it made it much, much stronger while adding, I think it was under 2 kilos on this part. But a huge, huge work of reinforcement. Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's a completely different thing. I spent hours and hours doing these parts, but when you want to do it perfect, and I know only one other S2000 of the world, in the world, that was in Japan. Probably there are other ones, but I just don't know about them, that have been prepared to this maniac level for motorsports. And this is the finished product, so completely reinforced. Not an easy job, but I love a well-done job. Yeah. And this, clearly this is the front one. And then you start again to install the parts. So also here we installed a 1.5 way differential within the original housing. Also this install I did myself, getting all the shims perfect, making the tests with paint to make the gears perfectly aligned. And this was the chassis number of the car. And at first we had thought of going with the stock brake booster. Soon we decided to convert and go with, let's say, a motorsport brake setup with a double pump. And also to put motorsport air jacks. And this is what you're seeing just now. And these air jacks enable you at the 24-hour races to raise your car very quickly. Most of the bodywork, where possible, was transformed in carbon. You see these beautiful reinforcements in the front suspension pickup points. And now we're starting to talk. So it will look to you like we're done, but believe me, now the biggest part has got to come still. Because now we're just test fitting the bodywork to see that everything is working and everything is matching up. And the lights and all the exterior trim, and then you have to take it all off and start putting the car back together. And this is a big job. Yeah, all the parts from Spoon Sports, I love this body kit so much. And the first times where you were actually seeing the front wheels with no filling in the rear part for aerodynamics, on even a lower tier car instead of just Le Mans cars or something like that. You see, just it's a work of art. The beauty of this car. It got very dirty with the slick tires behind the front wheels, but this is because the aerodynamic, as you can see, it was just letting the air flow, and that was perfect. Big problem with the throttle bodies because the horns would not fit. So we had source horns, I don't remember, even from UK, I think. At the time already, we were using lithium batteries in 2011 or what have you. Here is the wing fitted. And the front testing up with the brakes and suspension. We were using Bilstein MDS suspension, rear diffuser installed. Oh yeah, obviously 240 slick tires, R18. Mishimoto was a sponsor of ours, great products from them. And we had this beautiful, beautiful header from HKS. And this was the longer primaries that you could get in the world for an S2000. And this was guaranteed to improve the mid-range without harming too much the high range. And look at these secondaries, how they wind around each other. This is because we needed as much torque as possible, being sure to come in hard into the torque band, because the Nordschleife is a very, very engine-demanding circuit with these huge uphills, and you just need to be sure the engine is going. Also, of course, we had a reduced ratio. I'm going by memory, so I could be wrong. I think it was 4.5 ratio in the rear. And this is all the airlines, pressure airlines, that are used for the car hydraulic jacks. These are new brake pumps. And yeah, what a job we did. So much work. We're talking about something like 6 months of work, of workshop work, of 6 people, let's say, something like this. And we were running to do it because we had to make the first race, and we were running on this, very much so. Beautiful. And yeah, the benefit with the white bodywork, especially inside the car, is that you can see all the problems. So usually white or metallic gray, a light metallic gray is what you use. Let's say in all the bottom parts and all the main chassis. And then on the top part, where you are in the line of sight of the driver, you can also use black, not to have light reverb problems, but yeah, that's just a choice. Of course, I'm looking into the monitor whilst I'm talking to you, so this is not disrespect. I'm just checking out what's happening. And the motor also was clearly a work of art. But yeah, these are some pictures from before of the subframes during reinforcement. Yeah, these are the first throttle body horns that would not fit under the new. All the arms on uniballs, of course. And a very big, this structure we made for the hydraulic lift of the car. Actually, also there, we had to add weight for this, but it was made in a way that would add resistance to the car itself. So again, torsional rigidity in the rear. So this would help out. Yeah, here we're finishing the assembly. You see how the arms are now look all new because they've all been proofed. All the bearings, everything has been either changed to the OEM new or upgraded to Uniball where needed, and everything was just perfect, spot on. And this is the Bilstein MDS to my specification suspension for the Nordschleife. So it had different hydraulics and more excursion than what you would usually have on this car, in order to cope in the best of ways, not only with the bumps, but with the curbs and with all the lifts. So going over all these crests also wants your car to be able to recover easily when you're touching the ground once more. And when you have more wheel travel and more bump, this will help. Now, this was the structure around the fuel cell. So that was the problem I was talking about, is because by FIA regulations, when you have a fuel cell in the same area, because this was not a sedan, so there was no closing dividing wall between the driver and the fuel cell, then you have to enclose it in a 2.5 or 3 millimeter sheet metal on top of the fuel cell itself. So obviously it would not fit, and this was what we studied before painting the car. So we had to, our engineers had to work and create a kind of puzzle of these sheet metal, very strong parts, and put them together in some way that could be composed and opened and composed and serviced and recomposed and bolted down in a way that we could both service the car and guarantee FIA regulation safety. Not easy at all. And yeah, the engine management was all by Haltech, and we also had the drive-by-wire by Haltech, and this was, I must say, quite flawless system. We had a bit of issues with cold starts at the beginning, but then they managed to iron that out, because obviously the engine was benched after being built on an engine bench, and then the electronics guys have to come to you and let's say narrow out the issues on the car itself. And you also needed to put hotter grade spark plugs, because they had to put colder grade spark plugs, but the car would not start happily with those. Quick release steering wheel with you know, all the buttons you may need for blinkers during the race, very, very important. And here is all the control panel, handmade and cut in carbon fiber by myself. Yeah, Recaro seats. These were so new at the time. They just came out with this additional head protection. They were something really special. Beautiful details here, the welding on Nishimoto components on the radiator. We had sway bars from Ibach. And yeah, this was our workshop, AJ Performance. Beautiful place, beautiful. Of course, at the time we were on Michelin. In the coming races, it was Michelin tires. And this was the rear side, tow hook. Exhaust installed, the MDS in the rear. And a few details of the beautiful, clean car. Can you relate to what you saw at the beginning? And these are the fuel pumps under the car, the beautiful exhaust headers, the HJS cat, and the rest of the line down there. Look how clean and beautiful everything was. All the reinforcement braces. I mean, this chassis was incredible to be driven. And here is the finished product. So finally, we got into our alignment dam. So this was, I reckon, the best alignment in Italy, because it was built and soldered in place to a decimal of millimeter. And it also had the option to lift the car if you needed to do work under it. And we tested it with myself and professional driver David Hahn and another Italian rally driver, to be sure to have more opinions on this. And this is when we got better times than what were achieved by the official drivers on the official Abarth S2000 car that was at the time the highest level car. And they were on NA engines, natural aspiration engines too, with 2 liters, the way we were. So it was a very good comparison, even because this track we went to test on was let's say, a quite narrow track, so it was in favor of the rally cars. So we were expecting a lot. And from this, we also had the press, and we got one very big article of many, many pages that I'll show you just now. And some other smaller articles from both offline, on paper at the time. People were still buying magazines, and offline. So it was really a joy. This is myself testing it to the limit. And it was really a joy. Obviously, no livery, because this was just the first test. And then, unfortunately, we had to, soon after that, you see Ringstar, this is the article, part with the car, and it went to this private collection. But it had been a beautiful trip, and I've learned so much, and I'm thankful to the engineers and my cooperators that worked with us. And yeah, so I wanted to tell you, share this experience of mine with you, and to tell you that everybody can make mistakes. We're all human, but at the end of the day, the fact is to always talk with a study behind about what you're talking, and with a big knowledge behind that too, backing up. And this is what I try to bring to our channel. As I said, thank you very much for following me, and I make mistakes, and when I do, please point them out, because we will fix them and we will say them. There is a complete transparency from the intellectual point of view. And I hope you enjoyed this, and have a great day now. Bye.